September 21st is commemorated as St. Matthew's Day to celebrate his life. Matthew means gift of God. Matthew is the author of the Gospel Matthew in Aramaic. Occupation tax collector. Native place Capernaum in Galilee. Best known for his occupation as a hated tax collector, following Jesus immediately when called, and writing a gospel that proclaims Jesus as the fulfillment of Old Testament prophecy. Matthew's gospel presents Jesus as the great teacher who has the authority to interpret the law of God and who teaches about God's kingdom. Much of his teaching is gathered by subject matter into 5 collections. They are 1. The Sermon on the Mount, which concerns the character, duties, privileges, and destiny of the citizens of the kingdom of heaven. This we read from Matthew chapters 5, 6, and 7. Second one, instructions to the 12 disciples for their mission. Matthew chapter 10. Third one, parables about the kingdom of heaven. Matthew chapter 13. Fourth, teaching on the meaning of discipleship. Matthew chapter 18. And fifth one, teaching about the end of the present age and the coming of the kingdom of heaven. Matthew chapters 24 and 25. Matthew is mentioned in Matthew chapter 9 verses 9 to 12 and Matthew chapter 10 verses 1 to 3 as a tax collector who, while sitting in the tax collector's booth in Capernaum, was called by Jesus to follow him. He is also listed among the 12, but without identification of his background in Mark chapter 3, verses 16 to 19, in Luke chapter 6, verses 12 to 16, and in Acts of the Apostles chapter 1, verse 13. Traditionally known as publicans, that is Jewish tax collectors for the ancient Romans, these were local men employed by Roman tax contractors to collect taxes for them. Because they worked for Rome and often demanded unreasonable payments, the tax collectors gained a bad reputation and were generally hated and considered traitors. In passages parallel to Matthew 9:9, both Mark 2:14 and Luke 5:27 describe Jesus' calling of the tax collector Levi, the son of Alphaeus, but Mark and Luke never explicitly equate this Levi with the Matthew named as one of the 12 apostles. Ministry and death. The New Testament records that as a disciple he followed Jesus. Afterwards, the disciples withdrew to an upper room, as we read in Acts chapter 1, verse 10 to verse 14, traditionally the Cenacle in Latin, in Jerusalem. The disciples remained in and about Jerusalem and proclaimed that Jesus was the promised Messiah. After the crucifixion and resurrection of Jesus, Matthew was amongst those chosen to go out and spread the word of Christ, called apostles. He spent his time mostly in Palestine, where he helped plant new congregations and spread Christ's teachings. Matthew preached the gospel to the Jewish community in Judea before going to other countries. Matthew died as a martyr in Ethiopia. According to church tradition, while preaching in Ethiopia, Matthew converted and then consecrated to God Iphigenia of Ethiopia, the virgin daughter of the Ethiopian king Agabus. When King Hyrcanus succeeded Agabus, he asked the apostle if he could persuade Iphigenia to marry him. Matthew thus invited King Hyrcanus to Mass the following Sunday, where he rebuked him for lusting after the girl, as she was a nun and therefore was the bride of Christ. The enraged king thus ordered his bodyguard to kill Matthew, who stood at the altar, making him a martyr.